It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. Of course, we do start at home, where in a solemn moment of national reassurance, President Tinubu this morning told Nigerians that while he continued to reform the economy, he would always listen to them and would never turn his back on the people. In a national broadcast to mark this year's Democracy Day and the 25th year of uninterrupted democratic rule in the country, Tinubu recalled how he and other like minds risked their lives for democracy to birth.
And one of the largest democracies in the world. This change stands as a pivotal moment in human history. From this change, we shall never turn, nor shall annals of mankind's progress forget the sublime meaning of this great moment. Today, 25 years later, we celebrate the silver anniversary of our journey in democracy. We have studied the course. Democracy is neither a foreign nor abstract concept devoid of real-life meaning for us. Neither can we afford to reduce or minimize it to being nothing but the mere holding of periodic elections where one candidate and party outdo another. While elections attract democratic attention, they are but one aspect of democracy. Democracy is a way of life that encompasses a broad outlook of which elections are but a part. As such, a nation can have elections without being democratic, but a nation cannot be truly democratic without holding elections. That we have established a tradition of holding transparent, open and fair elections gives credence to our democratic standing. That we have experienced peaceful transitions of government affirms our democratic temperament. Fellow Nigerians, true democracy shined its light on the daily lives of the people who live under its nurturing wings. It affords us the freedom and liberty to think as we want, live where we want, and pursue whatever legitimate endeavors suits us. Democracy does not assume some false or forced unity of opinion. In fact, democracy assumes that conflicting ideas and differing opinions shall be the order of the day, given the diversity and variety of the human experience. There must be diverse perspectives and viewpoints. What democracy demands is that we do not resolve differences through force and repression, but we make allowance for the legitimacy of views that differ from our own. The other forms of government imposed against the will of the people. Democracy aims to make leaders who conduct themselves as servants of the common good, not as viceroys of the narrow interests of the might. My dear compatriots, Nigeria faced the decision of untold gravity 25 years ago, whether to veer towards better destination or continue aimlessly in fog of dictatorship. We made the right choice then. We must continue with that choice now. As Nigerians, we must remind ourselves that no matter how complicated democracy may be, it is the best form of governance in the long run. We must also be aware that there are those among us who will try to exploit current challenges to undermine, if not destroy, this democracy for which so much has already been given. This is the great battle of our day and the major reason we specially celebrate this day as Democracy Day. The true meaning of the day is not to focus solely on the great deeds of the past that have brought us to this point. Yes, we pay eternal honor to those who laid down their lives, sacrificing everything to pave the way for the nation. I stand uniquely placed in this regard, and I was among those who took the risk to midwife the birth of our democracy. I am now a direct and obvious beneficiary of the fruit of those historic efforts. As a president of this nation, I am morally and constitutionally bound to preserve this precious form of governance. I vow to do my utmost best to protect your rights, freedom, and liberty as citizens of Nigeria. Even more than that, I pledge to do whatever is necessary to cement democracy as our way of life. Although the challenges are steep and multiple, I am grateful to lead Nigeria at this moment in our history and point in our democratic journey. I come before you also to declare that our most important work remains before us. The real test has never been whether we will rise to the challenge, the sling of misfortune and grievous pains of dictatorship. The real test is whether we shall lower our guards and fail to defend democracy as the shadow of despotism and its evident physical danger fade. I say to you here and now that as we celebrate the enshrinement of our political democracy, let us commit ourselves to the fulfillment of equally important counterpart, the realization of our economic democracy. I understand the economic difficulties we face as a nation right now. Our economy has been in desperate need of reform for decades. It has been unbalanced because it was built on the flawed foundations and over-reliance on revenue from exploitation of oil. The reforms we have initiated are intended to create a stronger, better foundation for future growth. There is no doubt that the reform has occasioned hardship. I feel your pains. Yet, there are necessary repairs required to fix the economy over the long run so that everyone has access to economic opportunity, fair pay, and compensation for his endeavor and labor. As we continue to reform the economy, I shall always listen to the people and will never turn my back on you. In this spirit, we have negotiated in good faith and with open arms with organized labor on a new national minimum wage. We shall soon send our executive bill to the National Assembly to enshrine what has been agreed upon as part of our law for the next 5 years or less. In the face of labor's call for national strike, we did not seek to oppress or crack down on the workers as a dictatorial government of the past would have done. We chose the path of cooperation over conflict. Nobody was arrested or threatened. Instead, The Labour leadership was invited to break bread and negotiate towards good faith resolution. Reasoned discussions and principled compromise are a hallmark of democracy. These themselves shall continue to animate my policies and interaction with the constituent part of our political economy. I take on this vital task without fear or favor, and I commit myself to this work until we have built a Nigeria where no man is oppressed. In the end, our national greatness will not be achieved by traversing or traveling the easy way. It can only be achieved by taking the right one. The words of American President Franklin Roosevelt sadly rings true, and I quote, "There are many ways of going forward, but only one way of standing still," and unquote. We dare not slumber, lest the good things awaiting our immediate future pass us by. We dare not plant our feet in the idle standstill in the middle of the intersection of hope and despair. We know the proper way forward, and we shall take it. The initial rays of a brighter tomorrow now appears on the horizon. An abundant future and our capacity to achieve that future lies within our reach. Democracy and the institution it begets over to take us to our profound destination. Let us board this progressive train together. And together, let us move Nigeria forward. Let's continue to keep the fire of democracy burning. Let's keep the torch lit for generations to come. May God continue to bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria and preserve our democracy. I wish us all happy Democracy Day.
That is the address from President Bola Tinubu on this occasion, the silver anniversary of democracy in Nigeria. Rufai, your take on that?
Yeah, another June 12th. Very spirited speech there by President Tinubu, I must say. Touched all the reasonable parts, about 56 paragraphs of that speech. Touched on the heroes of democracy. He too was part of those that fought at great cost to his life. He could have been killed in all of that. And also at great cost to the life of his family. And if you take a panoramic view of the days then, leading up after the annulment of that June 12, 1993 election, because hitherto what happened was after a long bargain when the military had taken over in 83, 10 years after, we finally had an election where Bashir Ramkio Abiola was adjudged the winner and of that election, but of course it was annulled. But the interesting part of it is that those that fought against democracy then still later benefited from democracy. The actors that fought against democracy then on the military side later benefited and held high democratic positions in this country. That's to show you the inclusiveness of democracy, and that's why it's still the best form of government, despite its ups and downs. We know it has a lot of challenges, but all we say here every day is the fact that the leader should appreciate the challenges and work at changing it, not just standing still. President Tinubu was talking about FDR, saying there are many ways to go forward without standing still. And trust me, FDR knows a lot about going forward because at some point in his life he had polio and he had to be on a wheelchair. But when Pierre Labor was bombed, if my memory serves me right, the 7th of December, 45, FDR decided to stand from that wheelchair. and said, if I stand, Nigeria will stand, America will stand. And we all know what happened afterwards. Hiroshima happened, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Truth has to be told. The problem we have with our political class is that they are not standing enough for the poverty that is bedeviling a lot of Nigerians. Bashir Abiola said, farewell to poverty. Under this administration has become welcome to poverty. No tomato, cost of living increased, over 40% food inflation. President Tinubu was saying that he had negotiated with Labour, they're going to push an executive bill forward. Is it the 62,000 that the government proposed, or he has something in his mind? In the coming days, we'll see that. A lot of loans for misplaced projects, Lagos Coastal Calabar Highway, 21 billion for the Vice President's villa. And these are the things that are making a lot of people scream. I'm happy he paid tribute to media. But under President Tinubu's administration, we've gone back to the Abacha days. It is so sad now that even before journalists release stories, because people have intel that the stories the journalist is investigating might hurt them, they're already arresting them. So this is the democracy we fought for 31 years after. Because yes, democracy is patient, but we must not take the patience of democracy for granted. Yes, democracy is inclusive, but we must not allow democracy to be hijacked by opportunists. Democracy is circumspect, but we must not do things impetuously to derail our democracy. Democracy is meant to be for the interest of all, but we must not make our democracy about the interest of few. A word is enough for the wise.
Okay, June 12, 1993. I remember the day as if it was yesterday. It was the day when Nigeria held elections to bring in a civilian democratic government. The two major candidates in that election were Bashir Abiola of the Social Democratic Party and Bashir Tofa of the NRC, National Republican Convention. The military had seized power through General Buhari in December 1983. And Nigerians went through a difficult period from Buhari to Babangida to Abacha. Babangida took power in 1985. Abacha later dislodged the interim national government and assumed power after that. So the military, they seized power for a very long time. And civil society rebelled. Civil society had this campaign, Never Again, a famous essay written by Father George Husani, that never again shall the military suppress the will of the people in Nigeria. But as it turned out, there was a transition by the Babangida government, resulting in the election of June 12, 1993, with the two major candidates that I have mentioned. Now, on that June 12, Bashir Abiola was the presumed winner of the election. He won across all the states. He even won in Kano State, which is the home state of Bashir Tofa. The first time that we will have an election in Nigeria that will be declared free and fair. But by the end of the month of June in 1993, the Babangida administration, the Maradonic administration, as it was known, said due to pressures, that the results would not be announced. I think Onfrunwosu, professor, was the INEC commissioner. And so that process was truncated. And what happened? Nigeria went into a long period of crisis. International communities, including UK, US, the European Union, they suspended aid to Nigeria. The Nigerian green passport became a symbol of disgrace and embarrassment at international airports. I mean, we were even pushed out of the Commonwealth. Big embarrassment for Nigeria. We then went through the process. You know, Babangida left, Shonekon took over, Abacha took over, and then in all of that process, Chief MKO Abiola became the martyr of the process. Following the Ekpetedo declaration, where he said he stood on his mandate, and he had the support of civil society, of journalists, of politicians, of, right-minded, good persons of good faith from across all Nigeria. All of that drama led us to the return to civilian rule in 1999. In the process, Chief MKO Abiola died in detention. In the process, many other persons died. Even Abacha lost his own life, although nobody regards Abacha as a hero. They thought he was the one who further complicated the problems in Nigeria. Now, most of these stories have been told by Joe Igbokwe in a notable book, and accounts have also been given by other persons who took part in that debacle, the June 12 debacle. But it had to take President Muhammadu Buhari to say it is not May 29 that should be Democracy Day, it should be June 12. Here we are, President Bola Tinubu celebrating the first June 12 under his watch. Now let me go to his speech. There are three major pillars in that speech. The first is that he reassured Nigerians that democracy is the best form of government, and that under his watch he will do everything possible to move democracy forward. And it was in that context that he quoted Frank Roosevelt, American president, former American president, to say that the country cannot afford to stand still. The country must move forward. And he is going to lead that forward march by focusing precisely on reforms and providing necessary leadership. Two, he talked about the sacrifice that was made by all the people within that period that I sketched, even if in parentheses, as I tried to do, because it's a long story. I've written so many articles on the subject, that so many people sacrificed to bring us to this point. Frank Kokori, Alfred Rewane, Chimabani, Ubasani, Shehu Sani, Commodore Dan Suleiman, Ibrahim Adesanya, himself too, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and they had to go into exile. Chief Alani Akinrinade, Chief Ayo Padokun, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, all these people. And then the media, the news, Punch, Guardian, National Concord, Tribune, Tell, The News, Tempo. Yeah, but he left out some names in the media connection. He didn't mention this day. Because when we were shut down in 1994, I was there. We spent a whole year at home, 1994, 1995. The Guardian was shut down. The Concord was shut down. Punch was also shut down. That was when this day came into the space. Somewhere in, first Ikoyi, then they went to, Bashiru Street in Ikeja. This day took over the struggle, which was a major statement, about the role of the media. You try to suppress one, another one will come up. And it was this day newspaper then that provided home for all the disengaged Concord news, journalists, Punch journalists, Guardian journalists, including Emmanuel Efeni. I think that was the time when he left us at the Guardian and he went to this day newspaper. So there's a lesson there about how you cannot suppress the media. So I think it's an important line that President Tinubu recognizes the role of civil society. The likes of Uba Sani, Shehu Sani, and all these people. If he didn't mention, but Kauto, people who were killed in the process. He didn't mention that Kwalonu Yomi, who had to leave town. In fact, his wife and his 2 weeks old son, they were arrested in the course of this struggle. Okay, Dele Momodu was not on that list. Dele Momodu also played a major role during that period. And all of us, who were there, we were part of it. So many people who suffered to create this democracy. The question now is, he says he's been a beneficiary. Many of the people who have benefited from that struggle have not served Nigeria well. I don't want to mention names in that regard, but at least we have President Tinubu, a direct and obvious beneficiary, and I'm quoting his speech, who is now president of Nigeria. He gave assurances again about economic reforms, and he described democracy as the best form of government, and he detoured into the conversation with organized labor. Organized labor is fighting that 250,000 naira is the minimum that they can take from the Tinubu administration. In the context of all that, negotiation with over new national minimum wage. But he says, that he's a man of good faith and that he's committed to defending all our interests and that he will never turn his back on the Nigerian people. Well, we don't expect him to turn his back on us. Nigerian people have done him a big favor. He says his ambition is to be a president of Nigeria. Emilio Kan, Efo Kambale, and then he's there. So that Emilio Kan should be linked with Efo Kambale. The Nigerians at this moment, they are not for Kambale. They are nervous. They are anxious because of the dire situation in the country. On this occasion of June 12, we're celebrating democracy as a better form, as the best form of governance. President Tinubu has an obligation to put the minds of Nigerians at rest and to fulfill his own promise this morning that he will not turn his back on us. Because indeed, many Nigerians are beginning to say that, look, the military, they even tried. How did we get to a point where people will be saying the military tried? Just because of the non-performance, the failure of the civilian leaders who are more interested in privilege rather than performance. This is where we are on the occasion of June 12, 2024.
Absolutely. Very well said, as always, Dr. Abati. And a truly sober speech and reflects the state of the nation at the moment. I know that a lot of Nigerians were looking forward to hearing something that may put a smile on their faces. However, one took a trip down the lane of history. The speech began with reminding us of who we may call the gallant heroes that brought us to where we are today, which is a free society, a democratic society. Dr. Abati went into more detail about the historic details of what transpired during that period. Now, I'm harping on this because we find ourselves in a position where the percentage of what we call born frees are increasing. Now, in African political science, the people who are born free are those who never experienced the struggle. They're people who were born after military rule. They're people who were born after colonialism. They're people who hear about these stories as they're narrated. But when we have history removed from our syllabus, how do we get the young people of today to connect and truly appreciate the struggle and the sacrifice that was engaged in order for us to reach the point we are in today? How do we get young people who are increasing by the day, who are becoming more politically active, legally politically active, to buy in? When we look at the state of the nation, when we say we want to celebrate the gains of democracy, but they're asking, where are the gains? What are the gains? And there's no history in the syllabus, so they don't even know what was done for us to get these gains. So there's a gap there. There's a gap that needs to be filled because there are people who no longer have a sentimental attachment to the events that happened during this period. And that's a very sad time to be. Because when you look at every other democracy, successful democracy in the world, history, connection to history, reminder of history, forms an important part of national identity. Because as much as we may not have experienced this struggle, as much as we may not, it's not a crime to have been born after the struggle. However, the onus and the duty is on this society to bring in our young people as stakeholders in the democratic project of this society. Yes, there was an emphasis on the note that elections themselves, as much as they draw a lot of attention, they don't make up a democracy. However, we've now gotten to a stage where all people have to look forward to our elections. That's not democracy, as the president rightfully said. There's so many other aspects of democracy that need to be built, that need to be invested in, so that we can carry people along. So as Dr. Abati said, we don't get to this stage where people are saying the military tried, the dictatorship tried. Oh, what about that other rule? It seemed to be more orderly. We should never be tempted to go back to that stage. However, it's not by chance, it's not by fate. It's an intentional investment that has to be made into the national identity of our people so that they understand what it means, the joy, the benefit of living in a democratic, free Nigeria. So let our leaders come together and build the nation that we have been promising our people. Because it's not by, unfortunately, rhetoric. It's not by speeches. It's by bread and butter. All right. Now, all is set for the military to parade at Eagle Square, Abuja, in commemoration of Democracy Day in Nigeria. The event, which also marks the 25 years of democracy, is a welcome development for the country's political leadership. We now join our State House correspondent, Adesua Omoron, at the Eagle Square for live updates on the commemoration activities of the Democracy Day in Nigeria. Adesua, good morning and welcome. Looking fantastic on this Democracy Day.
Thank you very much, Vinba. You will pardon me if I am screaming at this point because it's a noisy background. Invited guests have already started taking their seats here. Announcements are being made. This is the Eagle Square in Abuja. The troops made up of the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Nigeria Police have taken their position here. I can tell you, Vimbai, that getting into this venue is Herculean. You have to go through several security checks. Major roads leading to the Eagle Square this morning have been cordoned off by security agencies for good reasons, Vimbai. Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Rufai, and happy Democracy Day.
Good morning, Adesua. Good to see you. Adesua, level don't change. Abuja is different from Lagos. It's very good to see how I do Queen. But could you take us through very quickly before the parade begins, the democracy lecture yesterday, the highlights, because yesterday there was a democracy lecture delivered by former governor of Katsina State, Alhaji Masari, and President Goodluck Jonathan was chairman at that occasion. Some of the major issues within, the context of the celebration of Democracy Day.
Okay, Dr. Abati, I struggled to hear you, but I did pick out the public lecture to commemorate Democracy Day, which held yesterday as part of activities culminating till today. Yes, you're right indeed. The keynote speaker was the former governor of Katsina State, Aminu Masari, who at some point in the evolution of democracy was in the National Assembly and has been credited to being part of those who failed an attempt of a so-called third agenda by the then president Olusegun Obasanjo. He was the keynote speaker, and former President Goodluck Jonathan was the chairman of the occasion. He did have a lot to say, and I can tell you it is going to be a lot of talking points coming from what former President Jonathan said yesterday, from talking about the zero-sum game politics that we play at the moment, which he says is inimical to the sort of democracy we should be practicing. He talked about the extravagant lifestyle of the political elites and their children. He says political leaders must tell people to do as they do and not what they say. You can't ask the people to tighten their belts, and yet your children are busy spraying dollars at parties. Practically, that's what he had to say. He talked about the role of the National Assembly. He also had a message for the President Bola Tinubu administration. The president was represented at that event yesterday by Vice President Kashim Shettima, and he told them that they are birthing the beginning of the next quarter century of our democracy. And he challenged them to build a democracy without friction. He talked about the democracy without religion and region. And that's something that has been talked about in the front burner in recent times, Dr. Obati. A lot was said at that event yesterday, but to sum it up, it was about inclusivity, selflessness, the resilience of the Nigerian people, and taking our democracy to the next level, practicing it the way it suits us. There were complaints about how expensive our democracy is and how unsustainable it can look, in just practical terms, the way at which it is going at the moment. There were also praises, commendation for the heroes of democracy. Former President Goodluck Jonathan wheeled a couple of names. Vice President Kashim Shettima praised President Bola Tinubu as the unsung hero of the Nigerian democracy.
Right. Truth has to be said at this one. A lot has been said on Democracy Day, but the big question is, are Nigerians reaping the dividends of democracy? Take, for instance, that event put together that you are attending at Eagle Square. Nigerians are already looking at the cost of that event at a time where tomato is at an all-time high. What's going on?
Rufai, you're very right. You've talked about the importance of Democracy Day. I listened to your interesting and brilliant analysis as always, the trio on the morning show this morning. But today, the celebration today is different. It's notable for different reasons, Rufai, because very quickly, this is the second attendance by Bola Ahmed Tinubu as Nigeria's president and commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces. You will recall that the first attendance by President Bola Tinubu last year was at the forecourt of the presidential villa at the State House in Abuja here. The thinking at that time of the government was due to the mood of the nation, the challenging times according to them. But today, we have moved over to the over 5,000 capacity Eagle Square here in Abuja. Now, that should signal a return to normalcy, but what exactly constitutes normalcy is still out to the jury, and only, frankly, the secretaries of the government of the Federation and the government can tell you what has changed and why they have decided to come here as against the low-key event they had just a year ago. Another reason why this is different, Rufai, is the president will be returning back here for the very first time since he stood right there. If you can see to my right is where you have the state box. He stood right there and announced just a year ago the end to fuel subsidy. What many say, set the ball for what became a turbulent start to his presidency. So he'll be returning here today for the first time since that announcement, Rufai. It is also different for a reason that the last time we held this, we had a different national anthem. Another reason that comes to mind that is different today is we had a different set of service chiefs and Inspector General of Police the last time we had Democracy Day. But really, to your point about the economy, Rufai, if you ask me, who will I ask? That's a question for the government.
All right. That's Adeso Amoro, and of course, State House correspondent, live from Eagle Square, giving us an insight into how we've migrated from what was a low-key June 12th last year to something a little bit more elaborate and grand this year, reminiscent of May 29th, 2023, when we saw subsidy is gone.
So for me, I'm just concerned about the cost of putting this event together at a time where we are complaining of very dire economic circumstances. I love the celebration of democracy, but we must celebrate democracy when there's something to truly celebrate. Things are dire. things are sad for this country. Okay, I think we're back to her.
No, but it's not projected by the Tinubu administration as a big ceremony, and I think that June 12th, more importantly, as the government has correctly signaled, should be a day for sober reflection. How did we get here? How have we felt? What happened that led us to this moment? These are some of the issues, that Nigerians should worry about. So they've not made it a very big, costly celebration. In fact, June 12th celebration,
do you have the numbers, Dr.
June 12th celebration used to be done only in the Southwest at a time. And then it became a national event as adopted by President Buhari. So the symbolism of it, and when I commented earlier, I've tried to look at the speech. Why is it that President Tinubu did not devote a special paragraph to Chief M.K.O. Abiola? Maybe I missed that, but Chief M.K.O. Abiola is the reason, the matter of a day like this. I thought I missed that. Maybe
no, you didn't
somebody will point out.
It's apt. You didn't devote any paragraph to him.
Let's just quickly go back to Adesua so we can let her go. She's live with us again from Eagle Square. Adesua, if you can hear me, just a quick rundown of what we can expect happening throughout the course of the day from where you are.
Thank you so much, Vimba, and sorry about that quick interruption, technical hitch that we had earlier, I beg your pardon. So what to expect is really ceremonial. As you have highlighted, the president has spoken to the nation this morning as part of activities to mark today. He will come here. So here at the venue, like I said, my cameraman does justice to the troops already on ground, formations from the armed forces, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Nigeria Police. If you look around the stadium here, you already have invited guests. I can tell you cannot enter here without your work permit, your work ID card for the government officials, or your invitation card that allows you to pass that very cordon-off gate to my right. And so what we have is government officials, service chiefs, dignitaries who will arrive hierarchically. The last person, beg your pardon, that will arrive this venue to kick off this event today will be President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Once he comes in, then the event will kick off officially. He would inspect a guard of the parade. I'm told that the march past will be in quick and slow procession as well. My cameraman is panning to something. It's supposed to be the world, or it's tagged rather, the world's largest painting portrait on canvas. I can hazard a guess what's on that portrait, but I will leave it till when it is unveiled. It is part of activities that we would see here. We are likely to see cultural troops. There will be a lot of march past. Here we also have some school students who have arrived to be part of this. I see in this venue members of the National Youth Service Corps. It's a colorful Eagle Square this morning, I can tell you, Vimbai. And I'm told, give or take, it should be about 2 hours for this entire event once it kicks off again with the arrival of President Bola Tinubu. Vimbai.
Okay, among the list of guests, I've seen you saying that the service chiefs will be there, understandably. The troops are on the ground to do the parade. Is organized labor also invited? Are they going to be given a chance to also say something on Democracy Day? Because labor leaders were part of that struggle for democracy. Frank Kokori, Nupeng, Pengasan, there were major figures in civil society at that time. Would they likely also be there? To also be part of the process, or they've been deliberately excluded, considering the quarrel over new national minimum wage. And that biggest portrait, I hope it's not going to be a portrait of President Tinubu, because that would be the height of personality cult worship, you know, the type that we have seen in some other parts of the world that we did not recommend. If what they have there is President Tinubu's portrait, they must not unveil it, because Nigeria is about all of us. It's not about an individual. Please go ahead.
Great. Dr. Patti, like I said, I think I'll leave the unveiling to when it is unveiled. I can hazard a guess. I can see through the flag what's there. But I'll leave that for the viewers to wait for that, Dr. Patti. And the organizers, let me not bust their bubble. But to your first question about Labour, you are very right. Labour shouldn't be left out of this. But I do know that the leadership of the organized Labour at the moment are not in the country. They are attending the ILO conference in Geneva. Now, whether members of organized Labour will be here, I do not have that information, Dr. Patti. I am not privy to the guest list at this time, and I do not know if they have been left out or they were invited. But like you said, looking at the speech of the president, he dedicated about 2 paragraphs to talk about Labour, telling them to come and break bread, you know, and that his government could have done what other governments have done in the past to crack down on Labour. But, you know, they are extending the olive branch and all of that. Camaraderie is for the betterment of the country. So I do not know if Labour has been left out of this event intentionally, and I do not have the guest list. What was your other question, Dr. Patti? I forget now.
Okay, I think it was pretty much talking about, you know, Labour and all of that. Then he made the comment as regards the unveiling. Adesua, for me, the cost of this fanfare, I don't know if you've been able to ask them for the numbers since you're in the presidency. How much did all of this cost us? Take all of a sudden now you are showing us this giant painting. I collect some artwork myself. I know that's, if they are saying that's the biggest canvas, it doesn't come cheap. So what is the cost of this fanfare on the taxpayers' money at a time when Nigerians cannot buy tomato? 3 or 4 seeds of tomato is about 1,000 naira or 2,000 naira. So how much is this fanfare costing us?
It's a legitimate question, Rufai, and unfortunately, I do not know how much this is costing the Nigerian government at this time, where, like I said, tomatoes has become gold, really. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation is the pinpoint for this event. It's the organizer for this Democracy Day event, and they'll be in a better position to tell us just how much and break down the figures for us, how much this has cost the nation at this time. As for the painting, I do not know if it was also bought or if it's private. I don't know who organized it. Information I don't have at this time, Rufai.
Well, if the painting is the portrait of Chief MKO Abiola and other heroes and heroines of June 12, including Kudirat Abiola, Abraham Adesanya, you know, Chief Anthony Enahoro, that would be fine. But if it's a portrait...
Let the cameraman pan to the painting, let him zoom in and see if you can guess who's in the painting.
Well, as long as it's not... President Bola Tinubu will be fine. Otherwise, we'll bring up the issue of cost.
Yes.
Who has better eyes here? Vimbai. You are from Zimbabwe. You probably see better.
I'm trying to look through it. You'll not be able to see you.
I can't see. I can just see that the gentleman is wearing blue.
I'm seeing a eye.
Anyway, we can't figure it out. Just looking at the TV set. But I just hope that they will not cause another controversy with that biggest painting in the world.
Yeah.
They call it.
Because this is not even the time to do this fanfare. And that's why some figures are being bandied around. Anyway, it's not official. I must have to state, because I like to deal with empirical, but it's not official. We are hearing they are pegging 300 to 350, but it's not official. Some figures are just being bandied around.
Is that million or billion?
Million as a cost to this. That's a lot of. You know how many schools that we built? Do you know how many drugs in the hospital that we give?
The president's speech was sober, and you know Dr. Patti already spoke about us trying to make this a commemoration that is about sober reflection, what's the mood there? Because, we know with these types of grand events, it's normally far from sober and normally doesn't reflect the mood of the nation. Is it jovial? Is it looking like it's going to be an Owambe, or is the sober mood going to continue?
Vimbai, at this time, it's let's start with the weather. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. It's sunny, it's bright here in Abuja. I don't know what Lagos weather is like. But looking at the faces of these people who have come in so early, they've left their houses and they've arrived here at the venue as they've been directed with their invitation cards and their work IDs. Let the camera pan to their faces. Perhaps you make out what the feeling is like. But I've also seen a lot of enthusiasm. People wanting to get into this venue, whether they've been invited or not. Will that happen? I can tell. But at this moment, what I can tell you is that the security is tight. If you have no reason being here, then you can't be here. I've seen a lot of drums. I'm yet to see Ashwebi, what we call the party uniform in Nigeria. I'm yet to see a group of people putting on the same, fabric, Vimba. You understand what I'm talking about when I talk about Ashwebi? So I don't know if we're going to have the Owambe mood at this place. And it's vibrant, it's bubbly at this time, arrival of guests. The troops are preparing to give us the best of their parade. It's colorful, just looking at the uniforms of the different formations here. I can say the mood here is somber. I can say it's lively.
It's internationally. Thank you so much for doing justice to that. I think we've been able to get a lot from you. I know we're now asking for almost the impossible from you, but thank you so much for engaging us on that. It looks like one of the bigger talking points is going to be that portrait and whoever's behind it.
I don't think they will want to just put the president's picture there. I think it's going to be something very inclusive. I know they will surprise you, Dr. Abati. Don't worry. He's President Tinubu's government. He has brain, very tactical. The builder of Lagos? No, it's not going to do such a thing. The creator of Lagos, the grand master owner of Lagos, you think he's going to do something? No. He's going to do something that is all-inclusive, that celebrates the essence of our democracy and our national pride, and puts everything together. President Tinubu will shock all of us.
I get the sarcasm, but, I just thought, maybe I missed a paragraph. You said I didn't miss it. I would have thought that the speech, certain elements were missing in the broadcast today. If I were in President Tinubu's shoes, Buhari, having recognized MK Abiola, he, as a kinsman of Chief MK Abiola, who was also involved in the struggle, who benefited, as he himself admitted, who would have devoted the whole paragraph, just a paragraph, perhaps, to the heroism, the martyrdom of Bashorun MK Abiola. But I stand to be corrected, if I missed it. But as for the portrait, I was just saying, let them not create another major controversy. If that portrait is unveiled and it is not what we expect, certainly that portrait must not be the portrait of President Tinubu.
No, it's not going to
so
be.
Maybe a collage of the heroes and heroines. As I've said, Joe Ibukwe wrote a book on that subject where he acknowledged many of the persons who were involved in that struggle. But it's important for the purposes of historification, for a country to remind itself of its history. And you were saying that history is not being taught in the schools. Yes, they abandoned it. They've now made it an optional subject. There are generations of Nigerians who don't even know the story of June 12, children born after 1993. Because we don't teach history, you'll find children asking you, who is MK Abiola? Why are they always talking about him? Who is Abraham Adesoya? The Akpamaku Ijebugbo, and a very distinguished
the man that they tried to kill and they didn't
lawyer.
die. That's what it was.
You know, people ask questions. They don't know. Some people, as we say, Pa Tony Nahoro, you know, who is Franco Kuri. That's why history is important. An occasion like this will give all of us an opportunity, you know, to reflect on our recent contemporary history and how we got to this point. Now, in that citation, I think the Catholic Secretariat of Nigeria also needed to be recognized. Look,
yes.
the struggle for June 12 was so much that even the churches joined.
The religious bodies, yes.
The Catholic Secretariat, the Anglican Communion, everybody was involved. Yeah. The only people I didn't see at that time, these Pentecostal people, they were busy talking about tithes. You know, but the regular churches, they were part of that struggle.
No, in all fairness, some of them joined. Maybe they were not the biggest voices.
Okay.
But in all fairness, the Pentecostals.
Some Pentecostal.
No, they were there.
Church people
are
protesting.
No,
in my
in
ears.
all fairness, they were there. It was.
I've heard that. Pastor Kuti was part of the struggle. Pastor Ayedogbon, Ibrahim Ayedogbon was also part of the struggle.
Yeah.
But in other words, a broad-based struggle to get us to this particular point. And that's what the history is all about. And I hope that, the ceremony that they will do today, will signify the importance of that critical moment.
Yeah.
And the heroism, I keep saying it, particularly, of Chief M.K. Abiola and others.
So,
and the anti-people behavior of General Sani, General
Abacha. Yeah. So today I want to give, because in telling this story, we need to tell the story of the unsung heroes. I want to give tributes to those that were mauled down on Ikorodu Road, that military cars ran into on Ikorodu Road. I'm sure Dr. Abacha, remember the story about when General Abacha was coming to town and some people were on the Ikorodu Road protesting and he ran into them. I also want to give tributes to somebody that has become part of my family. It's from my radio family anyway, Ambassador Musbau. He was a young activist back in the days. And Ambassador Musbau till today cannot see because of June 12th. He lost his eyesight. I think tear gas canisters went out and lost his eyes. The unsung heroes like that. I mean, we've talked about Mr. Kauto, Mahdi Shehu, the name Chioma Obani, the names are endless. What's even her name? Chris Anyanwu.
Yeah, she was jailed.
She was jailed. Chris Anyanwu, many people like that. I mean, people that ran magazine. What's this Richard Mufedamijo's wife? May Ellen Ezekiel. There are many people in this struggle. And I feel that was why probably in President Tinubu's speech, he just mentioned a couple of them. Because if you want to start with journalists, you will not leave Dr. Abati. They are way too many. You will not leave. But the question is, what did we do for these people? I'm happy you mentioned Franco Kore. See how Franco Kore died recently. He was in the hospital. I think it was the last minute that the governor of Delta State came to his aid before he finally passed. But that sickness had gone way too deep. Other people that passed around that time. Another thing too, let us give tribute to university students. Today I would like to doff my hat for Shuwore. Shuwore led the university student charge. We cannot forget the role of people like Shuwore. He truncated his education. Couldn't finish school because of that. The move of people like Shuwore, other people in the student union activism, Nigerian university students in general. Greatest Nigeria students. Greatest Nigeria students. Greatest Bagba. Greatest Gbogbo. Greatest Shiwon. Greatest Lewon. There were many students that died, that lost their lives, and were caught with stray bullets. That they just died like that. Some, they could recognize their corpse and send to their parents. Some, their parents couldn't get them. Those were the days when Nigerian students were very active in every protest of the greatest, 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 of the greatest Nigerian students. Because this struggle too
was about them. And I said that deliberately. Because today we have student association that a 47-year-old man or 50-year-old man is still leader of the National Students Union and is becoming political. And I see what they are doing. No activism, no idealism any longer. But we had students that did stick out their neck. So that's why I was saying President Tinubu couldn't mention all the journalists. If we want to mention journalists, what about them? John Momo. Because John Momo had just started his television station channels there. One of the few interviews then that you can still see as record of MKO Abiola was John Momo, a young John Momo himself, carrying his camera, interviewing him, and was Anthony Naoro in his apartment in Ikeja, in his villa in Ikeja. So too many people participated, too many, I mean, where are we going to put them? Bishop Kuka. Too many lives were lost. So we can just only appreciate and honor the true heroes. And I think, like Zabas was saying rightly, I think it should be a collage of all of those people.
Well, I've said,
yeah,
today has a book called Heroes of June 12, which covers the terrain, all the people who played one role or the other. But I'm still waiting for President Tinubu to pay special tribute to Chief MKO Abiola, you know, who was a martyr, who made the ultimate sacrifice for democracy in Nigeria that other people are benefiting from. And, you know, they shouldn't dance on MKO Abiola's grave. They should pay him proper tribute. Well, what do we have next?
Okay. Well, so much more, of course, as Democracy Day will continue to unfold, and hopefully we will hear that tribute that Dr. Abati and the nation, I believe, will be hoping to hear.